Okay, sorry for that disruption, um, but we must continue anyway. There was a kind of little breakdown on transmission, but we just have to fall back. So sorry for that. I sincerely apologize for that. So we have to just move on. So we are talking about um, we are trying to talk about some issues. There was a little disruption. It was really avoidable, but I just have to go off and come back in order to get some stuff properly fixed in order to come up with it. So we are talking about issues that we just need to understand how it works. Very, very important. Very, very important. Uh, Very, very important. So that we understand how some of things work. I believe I'm coming out loud and clear. I trust I'm coming out loud and clear. If I do, then we must proceed. So we are talking about, we said our topic is, for those of us, we said understanding the complicities in international laws and politics in pursuit for nation-state emergence. In pursuit of nation-state emergence, there are complicities involved. There are things you should expect it. You see, I laugh most times when I hear some of us, ignorantly alluding that they don't care how the world feels. They don't care how the world might think over our agitation. I respect people's opinion, but some opinions are really, really disgusting. It's really, really disgusting because reality is not bendable to illusion. Rather, illusion is bendable to reality. And this is one of things people don't understand about life. And when it backfires, when they bleed in cause of miscalculations, you see them activating the blinking. See, look, nature is so rigid in so many issues of life that once miscalculation, out of sentiments, illusions, emotions, and all the rest of them, cannot adjust reality and pinnacles of nature. That is just the way it is. And one of those things we try as much as possible to present to us as a people is for us to separate sentiment from reality. It's for us to separate fantasies, illusions, emotions from realities. Because nothing is so disappointing, nothing is so self-hurting or self-inflicting than when one entrenches sentiment, emotion above realities. You can, in fact, as a matter of fact, you can drag illusion from here to the, to Atlantica or any other planet you wish, continent you wish, so to say. It does not in any way change reality. And the most successful people on earth are people who embraced reality and discarded emotions and sentiments. Go and check it. The most successful people in life are people who say to themselves, this is what it is. This is what reality presents. Now, this is reality. We have identified that is reality. Let us see a way to maneuver reality. These are men of wisdom. The foolish people denies the existentiality of reality, and only for them to face it eventually, unavoidably. Then you see them activating blame games. I will give instances. For instance, we're in a struggle. This is a struggle for emancipation. This is a struggle to get out from a state, a country. And funny enough, most of us don't understand that if you pull out Biafra out of Nigeria, what is left in Nigeria will not be able to propel and catapult Nigeria where it's supposed to be. So it means the people who are interested to exit are the propellers. You might deny it. You might give it ethnic correlation. But the truth remains that every reasonable person understands quite sure that the part that wants to go out of Nigeria are the resourceful part. So, because this is a reality, you will deceive yourself when you come up with the mentality that you're going to face a struggle that is going to be win, 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 win all the time. That is, in fact, that is the foolishness of the time. In fact, the initiator, or should I say the modern driver of this struggle, always come to a word like this: they will kill us, we will kill them, then Biafra will come. That is a balanced statement. You will count your loss, you will count your win, then you get what you want. That is a reality on face. This is a man who understands reality. But when the fools decide to recycle reality and they are confronted with reality, the next thing you see them, they start looking for whom to apportion blame on. Because mentally, they are not stepped up enough to understand that this is issue of reality, not issue of sentiment of emotion. And how do you know someone who is not even serious with his destiny or with whatever he claims his pursuit? When he tells you every time that everything is going to be win-win-win. In fact, one serious factor that destroyed Nigerian youth, especially the Christian ones, was as a result of the wrong message where they were told that God is going to miraculously do everything for them. And it ruined a lot of minds. Yes, it ruined a lot of minds. So we are going to talk about issues. This is, I don't want to digress, but it's just a kind of introductory stage. We're going to talk about the reality of international politics, international law, especially as it concerns Biafra. For your information, you should understand that at international stage, Nigeria is in a severe war with Biafra. Anybody can tell you that he doesn't care how he's going to be represented. Anybody can tell you it doesn't concern him how the world reacts over his or her own action. But the same person who is telling you that he doesn't give a damn how the world is going to see him or her, the same person will tell you in his statement that he's giving the world a notice. He's putting the world to a notice. What a juxtaposition. What a contradiction. That somebody is telling you, don't mind, the UN can call you this, the US can call you this, he doesn't care. And the same person will also be telling you, or will also be saying, I'm addressing the world. Why are you addressing the same front? You said you don't care about their reaction. This is the mindset of real minds, self-inflicting minds. They deny reality, but when confronted with challenge, they start calling on realities. So this is just the way it is. So we are going to talk about a very deep issue tonight, or issues tonight, so that most of us will understand how the world system works. So that you understand that there are things you must put in place in order to get whatever you're pursuing. Somebody will say he doesn't care how country A or country B reacts, or it's not important to take into cognizance all these things. But the question you should ask yourself, why is it that Iraq invaded Kuwait, America intervened and mercilessly dealt with Iraq in another occasion? Then we now saw Russia invading Ukraine, the same America that dealt with Iraq in Operation Desert Storm. When Iraq, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, the same America could not also deal with Russia by launching a direct military attack on Russia. The reality on this ground is that Russia is a nuclear power. She is dangerously armed, unlike Iraq. So if the people of Iraq are now saying, we don't care how America behave, how America will react, let's just do it, like so many of us are saying, we don't care, anybody can proscribe us, blah, blah, blah. And the Iraqis are saying, we are powerful, we can do anything, we don't care, we don't give a fuck, America can go to hell. And they failed to put the realities on ground, which is possession of nuclear bombs. They don't have it. Possession of biological weapon, they don't have it. Having electromagnetic bombs, they don't have it. Having a very self-relying aviation system or air power system, they don't have it. But you see them making noise, bragging. We don't care, we're going to invade Kuwait. Let me tell you, they will enter Kuwait and they will run with a revise out of Kuwait because they refuse to do the real thing on ground. In the case of Russia, if Russia has also said, we don't give a damn how America thinks, we are going to deal with Ukraine, and Russia fails to be a nuclear possessor, fails to build a very good naval strength, fails to have a reliable air defense system, or maybe they just stopped at the armament they had during the Cold War. They did not develop or progress to S-300 or S-400 as the case may be. Believe you me, if they had denied to achieve the realities on ground and Russia entered Ukraine, believe you me, by now Russia would have been running out of Ukraine. And the same way applies to the struggle. The same way applies to the process of self-determination. There are things if you miscalculate, there are things if you neglect, you can make a noise as much as you want to make on social media. You can say God told you, like some of us, some people in this struggle will say they are prophet and all this bunch of newsers, and should I say bunch of idiots. We start yapping that one entity or one God told them. You can make all those whole noise. Trust me, you won't move an inch because you'll still be clouded with illusion, wishes without action equals to heartbreaking. And that's why when I look out, you see, people should understand. Ask yourself a simple question. Why is it that people had eloquently spoken for Biafra? People have amazingly talked about Biafra. When you listen to them, when they are broadcasting, when they are addressing the people, they are very eloquent in talking. But till today, they have never organized any single group that attracts international attention. Ask yourself why. The truth remains is that eloquency does not culminate into reality. It's a two different ballgame. You can be an eloquent, fellow, you can be an orator. They are amazing gifts. But that does not reflect to the propellers of what or the process of achieving the struggle. There are people who have spoken powerfully in the time past. Late Barrister Mazi, may he rest in peace. Dr. Ranya, these Omiomi and all the rest of them. These guys were wonderful on mic. But immediately they left. Why is it that everything died down? They could not galvanize a wonderful movement to champion or advance the cause. They just naturally fizzled out. Why is it that the likes of Uchemefo, George Onyiba, and all the rest of them are now, in fact, you cannot say what actually or what platform are they actually championing. The Asari people that came and said he's their president of what government is already busy on Tinubu camp. So you can now understand when we do, you see, people can be nice in talking, just the way I am. People can be so eloquent in dishing out dictions. People can come and tell you that when they open their eye, they see the end from now. All those things are good. They are amazing gifts. But they are outrightly different from articulative knowledge. Articulative knowledge is different from noise making. And this is what most people have not taken time to digest and inculcate. Now, for your information, IPOB has been in a very extensive war, diplomatic war, with the Nigerian state. And you know, some people will tell you that they don't care if UN dislet them, if US dislet. These are people who will come and tell. You see, the level of stupidity of some people is so deep that you wonder if they are actually human beings. Somebody will come and tell you, we don't care. And the same person will be saying, we are addressing the world. Why are you addressing the same word? You say you don't care how they react. Isn't that just opposition? Isn't that so contradictory? To say but the least. IPOB has been in a very serious battle with Nigerian state. You remember, Nigerian state defeated Biafra in the 60s on diplomatic front. And how? They successfully defeated us by making sure that they tagged our fathers rebels. As at that time, the word terrorism was not a popular trademark. Countries were not using the word terrorism much. In fact, the concept of terrorism was, should I say, consolidated, gazetted after 9/11 attack in US. The Osama bin Laden attack. That was when the word terrorism began to, be clipped on the lips of state actors and non-state actors. But prior to that time, it doesn't mean that there were no acts of terrorism. In Pearl Harbor, when Japan attacked America in 1944, in Pearl Harbor, America called it an act of terrorism, but the concept of terrorism was not really popularized. What was used as at the time the Civil War was going on was rebel. What is it called? Fidel Castro of Cuba was called a rebel. Nelson Mandela, they were called rebels. So the word rebel is as repulsive as the contemporary word terrorism or terrorist or terrorist. So the initiated idea of calling our fathers rebels, not freedom fighters. And our fathers could not diplomatically kill that title on their neck. It was a kind of stamp on them by the Nigerian state, powerfully advised by Great Britain. Our fathers never did any much in getting that tag, rebel, off their shoulder. And you know what? When their kids came, you and I, the same method, they went to their library, formulated a language known as terrorist, brought the stamp of terrorist. Remember, they stamped our fathers with the stamp of rebels, and our fathers could not get it off their bodies. So when we came, they also activated the same methodology, because they felt that if they use the same method at which they defeated our fathers, they would definitely defeat us. And one of the powerful instruments at which they deployed was the instrument of negative christening. They negatively tagged our fathers rebel. And when we came, they also went and refurbished the stamp and tagged us terrorists. Now look at the two things here. When they called our fathers rebel, our fathers fought in the name of rebels. They fought with the flag of rebels. They fought with the garment of rebels. And these people knew that one of the reasons why our fathers fell was because they did not first of all get off the garment of rebel. They were called rebels and they accepted it, fought with that title. And because of that title, a lot of countries were very skeptical in helping them. You know, when you say someone is rebellious, it means he's highly subordinated. He's an insubordinate. He's indisciplined. He's lawless, reckless, and all the rest of them. So our fathers never took time to get off that garment. And they felt that if they also call us terrorists, that we are going to waste time with them, fighting with the garment of terrorists. And that is one thing IPOB has been fighting that most people can never appreciate because of mental parochialism, because of small mind. You see, when one's mind is small, go and check the result of everything he does is small. Because they wanted us to agree just the way our fathers agreed, to fight on the same garment they wore us. I know most of us here might not really be deeply in Christian knowledge, but I take a whole lot of knowledge from the Bible because of deep knowledge there. Now, if you, I'm not really digressing a lot, but if you read an account of a man known as Joshua the high priest, I think it should be in the book of Malachi, if I'm not mistaken. But let me get my figure right, because for the purpose of what we are doing here, so that people understand, you know, everything in life is spiritual, and you cannot rule out the fact that spirituality is a very, should I say, a very powerful, controller when it comes to the affairs of men. So when they called our fathers rebels, our fathers ignorantly fought with a garment and the tag of rebels. You understand me? And they felt that if they also tag those terrorists, we should also, gladly, battle with them with the garment of terrorists. They wanted us to make the same mistake our fathers made. And if you study the book of Zechariah chapter 3 from 1 to 10, it's a wonderful story that I think if you have your time you study. You find out how a priest, a Joshua the high priest, the Bible says something that the devil, he appeared before the devil with a filthy rag, with a contaminated garment, with a very deplorable garment. But before the angel of God delivered him, the first thing the angel did was to change his garment. The changing of the Joshua, I start in Zechariah chapter 3, verse 1 to 10. Take time to read. The changing of the garment led to the total salvation, deliverance of that man. So when they tagged our parents rebels, yes, thank you. I think my bishop is even here. Pastor John EM is here. Thank you for that. So when they tagged our parents rebels, our parents never did anything to get rid of that title. So they now came, when we now appeared to demand the same thing our parents demanded. They now said, let us stamp these ones, their children, worse than what we stamped their parents. And guess what? Within a short time, they took a stamp of terrorist and marched on us. And they expected us to be fighting them with that title. And we said no. Because if we fight without removing the garment and the bandage they gave to us, we'll lose. We'll lose the battle. It's as simple as that. Forget idiots telling you that they don't care hard, that the UN can tag them anything. They are, you see, some of these people they are mentally limited when it comes to knowledge. The knowledge they have is just the mainstream knowledge. There's what we call mainstream knowledge. Knowledge even a child can lay hold on and access. And of course, how the world is ruled is not on the mainstream knowledge. How the world is ruled is in the dark part of the world that a man who is passive in thinking can never access. That is one funny thing about the wisdom of this world. You cannot access it by, jamborees and noise making. So when they gave us this tag, they wanted IPOB to engage, not minding the title. But thank God, because this is a divine project, God has to inspire us. He has to give us the right inspiration to battle them, but to refuse to answer what they called us. It's as simple as that. To battle them, but we must refuse to answer what they called us. Our fathers fought them, answering what they called them. And we say no, because we will also end up like our fathers if we choose to answer what they called us in a battlefront. We will end up like our fathers. Of course, that is how nature did it. You know what happened? IPOB began the process of name changing, because you have to define identity before seeking for attraction. Identity comes first before attraction. There's no two ways about it. Until you define your identity, there are attractions you can never get. In fact, as a matter of fact, what you portray yourself as is a determinant factor of whom and who we associate with you. You see, when people say IPOB should not care about diplomatic front, what you don't care now, you will eventually care for it. What you don't care, what you think is not important to engage on today, you will definitely engage. And unfortunately, your opponent might have had an edge over you on that. So when they called us a name, remember the essence of them naming our fathers rebels was to make sure no one associates with them. So they intentionally christened us. They intentionally tagged us a name for some purposes. And I'm going to explain to you that they are not calling you terrorists because they out of careless or out of miscalculation. This is what some dead brains among us don't understand. You cannot just be called a terrorist for a purpose, for a fun sake of it. One, the reason why they called our fathers rebels, one was to make sure they disassociated them from any international sympathizer. So that even those who would have done it will do it in hiding. Because it lose they are now supporting bad acts. So that's exactly what they wanted to achieve. But they failed because IPOB deflected them on that game. That as I speak to you, They are owing the world a response. As this time this program is going on, the world is waiting for them. In fact, the world has given them a time frame of 6 months to respond to them. You don't achieve all these things by social media users or coming to say you're a prophet and God. There are genuine men of God in this struggle. You might not hear about them. In their altars, in their privacy, they are not some of these ones you're seeing on social media. Bunch of newsers and bunch of Babylonian ones. Bunch of Babylonian ones. Not absolutely nothing. No spiritual content of any kind. They are just experts in confusion and irrational spills. Nothing. Spirituality, they don't have. Carnality, they don't even have. So they are just like bats, who neither belongs to the day animal or the night one. You cannot say, okay, now that spirituality has eluded you, can you wear the garment of carnality so that we know at least this brother, your carnality has really rubbed itself on you. And we listen to you from carnal perspective. It's really terrible. So, what IPOB did, because they named our father, they tagged our father with the intention of getting them away from those who would have assisted them. That was the sake of that tag. So they now felt they could use the same thing on us. You see, when they called us terrorists, IPOB had a very severe result of that tag. When they called IPOB terrorists, the irresponsible local politicians disassociated themselves from IPOB. Don't mind all these guys making a U-turn, trying to talk as if they're in line with IPOB. Majority of these useless and worthless politicians aided and abetted the process of proscription of IPOB. And also, advancedly, they disassociated, they denied, they disassociated themselves from their own brethren. But do you know what happened? IPOB began to engage them. You see, when they called IPOB terrorists, they wanted IPOB to now fight them in the way of terrorists. They wanted IPOB to now make a clear statement that from today we are going to give you all kinds of terrorism. That was what they wanted. And if IPOB had, imagine some of these noisemakers today were there in 2017 when IPOB was proscribed. They would have even said, advise IPOB, some of these noisemakers, IPOB, just go and get a bomb. Let's start detonating everywhere. Go travel Asia. They don't have any armament, but you see them talking, heaping a whole lot of issues on their heads, ignorantly. And of course, you see some charlatans, they are praising God. Yes! He has a fire. This is the kind of fire we need. Fire without base is harmless. So they played a card and went back to watch us do the mistakes our fathers did. Because they wanted to disassociate us from our future sympathizers, strangulate IPOB financially among Committee of Nations. So what IPOB did, intelligently, because they knew that if they proscribe IPOB, then they can use any unlawful means to clamp down on IPOB. You see, Most of us don't understand that some of these things you are seeing today, or some of these things you see the Nigerian government practicing on IPO, they learned it from Western nations. But the problem they have is that they learned it from, they copied without considering what we call environmental reality. I'm going to explain to you. Everything you see them trying to practice with IPOB, they learned it from Western nations. They learned it from United States. When United States wanted to deal with Al-Qaeda, the first thing she did was to designate Al-Qaeda. Then use Wall Street. Wall Street tracks a whole lot of financial movement in the world, Wall Street. They use Wall Street to track the financial movement of Al-Qaeda and deploy international agencies against Al-Qaeda. Why? And the world complied with the United States. Why? Because the world knew that Al-Qaeda indeed had committed terrible things against the United States and Western nations. So they deserve their designation. And most of you heard of extraordinary rendition. The Nigerian state also learned it from United States. Most people, whenever you hear that people are locked up in Guantanamo Bay is an island military detention center. It's in a Guantanamo, close to Florida. What happens in Guantanamo Bay is a detention center, a detention facility that is controlled, managed by Pentagon, United States military. So most of the people in Guantanamo Bay, United States government got them to that place without passing through without passing through extradition process. They go to Afghanistan, they kidnap them, they blindfold them, get them to that place. No due process. They go to Pakistan, they pick them, they go to Iraq, they pick them, they go to Bangladesh, they pick them, and not the rest of them. They go to Somalia, they pick them. They were extrajudicially renditioned. So, trust the copycats in Asorok. So they felt, okay, if we immediately proscribe IPOB, then we can go any part of the world and pick them. Just the way United States is doing. They failed to understand that a Al-Qaeda designation or proscription by United States is justified, owing to the fact that Al-Qaeda is not asking for self-determination. What Al-Qaeda is asking is the end of Western civilization against what IPOB is asking, which is self-determination, conduction of referendum. So when they say they proscribed IPOB, they now wanted us to help them by our actions and submissions to now help them and show the world that indeed we are terrorists. But unfortunately to them, they never knew they are handling with a more sophisticated generation. They prescribed IPOB, they expected IPOB to now run, everybody should now go to your tent, listen. Do you know the first challenge they got? When you're prescribing, there is a process of prescription. Most of you don't know that the president or whosoever does not have power to prescribe. By Nigerian law, I'm not putting, I'm not putting, I'm not putting heavenly law. I'm putting a Nigerian law. The process of proscribing a group They copied it verbatim the way it's applicable in United States, United Kingdom. Most of you don't know. They copied it verbatim. But they will never tell you that. They copied it verbatim from United States law on designation of foreign group. And one of the channels is that when you proscribe a movement or a group, I'm telling you what is obtainable in Nigerian law. You must give that group a certain days to challenge the proscription in your own court. That is what the law says, as it is obtainable in United States law, where they copied everything. You know, they have been experts in copying what they don't even understand how it works. That is the most certain part of Nigerian legal system. It is so foreign that they fail to have an indigenized legal system. So the law says if you are proscribing a group, you must give them a listening ear within a stipulated time in the court. Now that is the law being fair to the proscribing group or designated group. Because the law supposed to, the essence of tying, whenever you see the law, the symbol of law, there's always a woman whose eyes is tied. Because the law is not meant to see the rich or the poor. Rather, the law is supposed to see humanity. The law is supposed to see logic. The law is supposed to see sense. So the law says, if you are to proscribe a group, you must give them a certain time for them to come and tell the party that is proscribing them why they should not be proscribed. Now, every designated terrorist organization has never appeared in any court to explain to either United States, United Kingdom, or even Nigerian state that you need not to designate us or proscribe us because we are not. No, when America started the process of designating Al-Qaeda, they gave Al-Qaeda that chance in their law. Al-Qaeda did not send any lawyer to come and challenge. Immediately they designated Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda, instead of them to come and challenge America in law, in fact, they detonated more bombs to prove to America that you even did the proscription too late. When America did the same thing to Al-Shabaab in Somalia, they also gave them opportunity to send legal representatives in United States to convince the juries and the judge the need that Al-Shabaab should not be designated. Instead of Al-Shabaab to take advantage of that opportunity, Al-Shabaab now bomb many places more Madagascar or something like that. Sorry, permit me. The capital of Somalia. When America also did that to Hamas, instead of Hamas to also take advantage of that opportunity, Hamas also committed more terror to prove to America that you even arrived late. We have been expecting you to even do these things. When Nigerian state proscribed Boko Haram did not send any delegates to Nigerian court to challenge the Nigerian state. Now, when Nigerian state proscribed IPOB as a terrorist organization, immediately IPOB sent a legal representative to Nigerian state court. Do you know what happened? Since 2017 till today should be 20th of 21st of August 2020. Nigerian court and their legal representative refused to sit over the matter. So, how will you not tell the world that you have proscribed IPOB duly? So, you see, when they are calling IPOB a terrorist organization, the world is busy relating with IPOB because the world knows that these guys are stupid. The so-called the government, they are stupid. You proscribe somebody and somebody comes to your court and you abandon your court and run away for the past 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. Over 6 years, you refuse to appear over the matter. Then you expected the civilized world, the progressive world, to take you serious. You see, why I've taken time to explain all these things to us, so that you understand when IPOB says she's fighting a whole lot, every fight is not a social media fight. Every fight is not when you are, every fight is not on your own passive understanding of, or should I say, literal understanding of what fight is. There is literal interpretation of fight, and there is connotative interpretation of what a fight is. Do you now understand? So, because Nigerian government adjudicated in her own court when IPOB appeared to challenge the reason why she was proscribed. IPOB started from since 2017 till now. The Nigerian government refused to appear in her own court. You see, it's better you understand what we are talking about. The challenge is in Abuja, in a court in Abuja, not a court in Omahia or Oka. So that you will not say that Nigerian legal representatives were concerned of their security. That's why they have not given hearing to the matter. I'm telling you in Abuja, FIAM IPOB sent legal, they abandoned that. That means the process of proscribing as stipulated in Nigerian law has never been fulfilled. So therefore, the proscription of IPOB before international community and before every lawful society is of traverse, is null and void. It doesn't have local standing as far as law is concerned. So, in their shenanigan approach and the very lackadaisic tendencies in doing things, they never knew that the world is taking note. The next thing they did, they ran to the war stage and started telling the world and said to the world. In fact, before they run to the war stage, they began to sponsor some disgruntled elements, trying to tell them to cause problem in our society. State-sponsored crisis began to spring up here and there. And do you know what? When these things were happening, they were expecting IPOB to take responsibilities. If a policeman was killed, or a military man was killed, or government facilities were raised down, they wanted IPOB to take responsibility of what she knew nothing about it. And guess what? The press statement of IPOB the next day will shock and deflect them. Trust is more powerful. IPOB will make them understand that what happened was what they did. It was a false flag. It was a clandestine operation of the state aimed at blackmailing IPOB. So therefore, we cannot take responsibility of what we knew nothing about it. Check it out. And there was panic and jittery in Abuja because their intention was when they commit those atrocities, then IPOB should arrogantly arrogate the doings of themselves, then they will run to international community. So when they went to the international community and said, can't you designate these people? And the world is now asking them, please, can you show us a press statement where these people have taken responsibility? Because to the best knowledge of ours, when a Qaeda launches an operation, they arrogantly claim. In fact, sometimes a Qaeda even claim what they never knew anything about. As far as it happened in the United States, even though it's done by one loaf, there's what we call a one loaf. A Muslim who is angry with the way Muslims are treated in a particular place, he might not be associated with any terrorist organization, might decide to commit an act of terrorism. That Muslim is called lone wolf. He operated on individual scale. At that moment, Al-Qaeda even claimed responsibility and said, is it that man that did that is our own? So the world is not saying to them, these people, we are not seeing any act of acting like terrorists. They are not, you see, Al-Qaeda will do something and even claim the one that they are not directly involved in. But these people will read their press statement, they disassociate themselves. Sometimes they even promise to go after the culprits. So, do you think they are what you want us to regard them to? That is one. Secondly, when they go and say the world should designate IPOB, the world always say that, but these guys are still challenging in a court, which you have refused to appear. Do you think they will not also challenge us? And of course, they will win us. Because our own society, the judge are independent thinkers. So you want us to initiate a process that these guys will floor us in a court. Probably, we will have a litigation to pay them. No, we don't have money to waste. So you want to lure us into a very disastrous legal battle with people who are already challenging you. So you think they will not challenge us in our own legal system, judicial system? Probably they will win the case against us and also win an award or litigation against us. No. And that was how they were flawed on that front. Take note, I'm trying to, make you understand some certain things so that you will understand that this game is not a game of social media noise making. Social media is good because it's also a way of propagating the struggle. But beyond the surface knowledge or surface awareness is the intellectual struggle, intellectual input, intellectual, displays that most of us absolutely have no knowledge about it. Because some of us are so much destroyed mentally, and they believe that it's only when you hear that is when the struggle is moving. And it's so sad. Because people with such mentality have already been misinformed about what power quotient is all about. You might not speak a word, yet you're moving situations. Yes. In fact, as a matter of fact, how many times does God speak? But his covenants are out there, day and night. The cloud has never fallen down on us. But has he spoken? Even David himself said, once has he spoken. Once has he spoken. But his actions are numerous. So people should understand that issues of success in life, in most cases, does not exist in the world of jamborees, illusions, and fantasies. that is just the way it is. So, that is by the way. Another way IPOB also deflected them is when they proscribed IPOB, that was when IPOB began to do more on international rallies. Because have you ever seen a member of Al-Qaeda rally in the cities of the world with their flags? Or have you seen a member of Boko Haram rallying boldly on the street of Katsina, in the street of London, on the street of New York, on the street of Brussels, and all the rest of them? Absolutely not. Yes, absolutely not. So when IPOB began to rally, some people said, is it rally that will give you Biafra? Some people do say that because they absolutely do not understand international politics. There are things you do for this struggle. It's not for this year result. Take for instance, let's assume IPOB was proscribed and she listened to those people who say, we don't need to be going to court. And she refused to go and challenge the proscription process. What do you think would have been the consequence? Do you think UN would have boldly write what she wrote? That wouldn't have happened. Maybe IPOB was proscribed and IPOB decided not to give a counter press statement, or even when the state-sponsored problems were happening, IPOB began to give a press statement. Yes, we did it. Our men dealt with them, blah, blah, blah. Like how some of you wanted it to be. Entertainers. How some of, I'm assuming IPOB decided to do the bidding of so many of us, claim anything that is claimable. Do you think UN will associate with a movement with that? Or do you think IPOB now went to no rally and listened to those who said, we have rallied enough all over the world, we don't need it any longer. Let's change the strategy in the Association of Chirekampu Group, Achoromi Group, assuming they were hacking up. Do you think UN would have associated herself? You see, the truth is, I realize that sometimes when our people don't understand something at earlier stage, you see what we call high hysteria. They produce what we call hysteria, hysterical tone. It's a kind of an alarmist tendency that it looks as if they are about to be consumed. And if you miscalculatedly get driven by that promoted emotion, you're gone. That is simply the way it is. Just take, for instance, you tell our people that like the way some bloggers who wanted to build their traffic will come out and say, Nnamdi Kanu is missing on the DSS facility. That's exactly what our people will. you see hysteria. Or just tell them that Nnamdi Kanu will be speaking from DSS to my broadcast tomorrow. You just see them, they'll suspend their brain and believe that hook, line, and sink. Because they are yet driven by irrationalities instead of rational thinking. You must be rational. Because irrational thoughts can only produce irrational results. Rational thoughts produce rational results. So these are the way Nigeria was humiliated. Humiliated. Literally humiliated. And as it stands now, she was absolutely nothing. She has absolutely zero influence in the sub-regional politics, in the regional politics, and global politics, because of her miscalculation in handling IPOB's matter. And of course, like so many of us, that is also how illusion destroyed Nigeria. Yes, illusion destroyed so many of us. So many of us who wanted those group of individuals who believe that, hey, tell me something good. You're in a struggle. You will meet the good, you will meet the bad, you will meet the ugly. That is the game. That is, in fact, that is how nature has made it. Even when God said to the people of Israel, I'm taking you to a promised land, the same people also experience hunger in the wilderness. The same people experience thirst. These are people who had God expressly. They face their own challenge. See, you see one thing people should understand in life, that you are on the move for a better tomorrow does not mean that the process of getting to that better tomorrow will be better or will be nice or good. I repeat, that you are on the move for better tomorrow does not mean that the process itself will be good. In fact, from historical and even spiritual perspective, there is no glory without a cross. From historical and you see, I told somebody, I was speaking to somebody over our leader, and this is a person who for a year now, he always tell me he has evidence of what happened in our leader's adoption and all that. And at the earlier stage, I told the man, I said, he is a US base. You know, our people are expert in, they like gossiping. Very, very terrible setup here. Gossiping. And that's why one of the best ways to be healthy from them is for you to discuss issues base. Focus on issue base. Because if you listen to some of our people, you wonder which God even made them. And I told the person, I said, listen, this is a struggle. We are seriously strategizing on how to have our independence. We are strategizing. Our opponents also are also strategizing on how to stop us. They are also strategizing. Now, if we are praying to have a winning, they are also praying to have a winning. So in this case, the concept of winning is relative. What is winning to us is lost to them. And what is lost to or winning to them is lost to us. So in this case, you will also have them win you in some areas. It's natural. It's something you cannot wish away. You don't wish it. Because in a battle, you have casualties. These are existential realities. So when you have a casualty, do you start blaming your playmates? Absolutely, to foolish fighters. They will spend their time blaming themselves when they have the casualty. But to wise fighters, what they do, take the situation as part of occurrence and do what we call mitigation against the future occurrence of such loss. That is for wise team. In fact, for a matter of fact, for our information, it's not everything that happens within this struggle that we will know now that we are still in this struggle. Those in South Africa during the time of apartheid time, when Nelson Mandela and the rest of them were fighting against apartheid regime, there are things those fighters, South African freedom fighters, there were things they never knew until the blacks took over the seat of power. There are also things they didn't know until Mandela died. And there are things they didn't know even until today. You see, sometimes unhealthy curiosity can be so dangerous. Unhealthy curiosity. When you are curious, you feel, you see, like, by special grace of God, I have been some time in this fight for Biafra self-determination project. And I have really seen people. There are some of them who will tell you that they are investigatory journalists. They end up become investigatory junks. Investigatory junks. They got so distracted that today they are no longer on the radar. Because they left the project and began to talk about personalities. And they got distracted. So what am I trying to say? These are so many things IPOB strategically did and defeated Nigeria on diplomatic stage. And guess what? UN sat down and wrote, or UN working group sat down and wrote a compiling report. And most of us don't. I think you have to take time to study that report. As a matter of fact, it's also better. I won't waste time. I will be cutting it short because this is my, after recession, this is the time they just gave me. Then we'll also do something better sometime. But let me say this. So many of us don't understand the report, what the report is all about. And we always hear, trust our people, hey, UN a daily report. Sahab Nnamdi Kanu, checking it. That is the summary at which they understand the report. They will not take time to understand which agency of the UN did that, which organ of the UN did that, and how effective is the report. Do you think Nigeria, they don't take time. to ask those questions. In fact, as a matter of fact, some will, some will go ahead to tell you that UN is going to send jets next week Sunday to come and pick Nnamdi. This, you see, illusions, elusive minds, very dangerous and disastrous, especially on the issue of struggle. UN took time to write that report owing to the fact that IPOB consistently stood on her ground not to allow herself to be associated with anything that has to do with terrorism. When IPOB lifted up, before the establishment of Eastern Security Network, IPOB first of all launched M Branch. And M Branch was specifically launched with the sole aim of gathering intelligence for the protection of the Biafran people. It's a defensive structure, not offensive structure. When ESM was launched, the aim of launching ESM was to defend the motherland against the invading terrorists. In fact, as a matter of fact, before the launching of ESM, there is a United States report stating that the terrorists from North are intending to advance to South. Nigeria government cannot protect the southern region. She does not have the assets in terms of personality and the hardware. So, as a matter of necessity, which necessity is a mode of invention, IPOB formed Eastern Security Network to combat the invading terrorists in the forest. As a matter of fact, you can see that most of the southern forests are already flooded by these terrorists. So, UN knew that every single group IPOB formed is for the sole aim of defending the motherland. Despite the effort of the Nigerian government to use some elements to blackmail IPOB, to use some elements to cause uproar, to do some criminal and disdainful acts in the land in order to target IPOB. UN knew all these things. Because IPOB leadership has never failed to give them a measurable correspondence and update of things happening around. So UN did that report, and we're seeing reactions today. And let me tell you, the UN Working Group report rubbished a whole lot of things diplomatically against Nigerian state. You see, they rubbished the notion that Mazi Kanu was a terrorist. They rubbished the notion that IPOB is a violent group fighting for what they don't know. Because UN report stated that we are fighting for self-determination, and they even encouraged Nigerian state to initiate the process of conducting a referendum. And as a matter of fact, I want you to understand this. Nigeria is not just only a signatory to UN Human Rights Commission. Understand this. A country can be a signatory does not mean that that country has ratified. Because if there is an agreement now and the president of a country signs that agreement, that does not mean that that agreement is not effective. That agreement can only be effective when the National Assembly, as in the case of Nigeria, Congress, as in the case of the United States, ratifies it. That is when that agreement becomes gazetted, becomes a legal framework in that country. In the case of UN Human Rights Commission or Human Rights Watch, Nigeria is not only a signatory, Nigeria have ratified the agreement. So if Nigeria has ratified the agreement, it implies that any decision taken by this agency of UN is binding on Nigerian state. And that is why, if you have read that report, you understand the tone of the report is not an appellant tone. How do I mean by appellant tone? It's not a tone at which the report was appealing to Nigeria to obey. No. It was a mandative tone. They were mandating to the Nigerian state because they are reminding them that this is what you signed. You're part of this agreement. So why are you violating what you're part of? And that's why you see everybody is panicking. Mietala is panicking. Northern Arewa Conservative Forum is panicking. The youth group is panicking. But one thing most of you have not understand is that no press statement has yet come out from Nigerian government. Do you know why? They are busy sponsoring non-state actors to reply UN because they knew if those rubbish those guys are talking about, if it should come from an official position in the same tone, then UN has to now teach Nigeria a lesson she will never forget. So do you know what they're doing? Calculatively, they are avoiding to speak their dissatisfaction with UN. They are avoiding to say anything as how they feel against UN report. They are avoiding it. Rather, they are not busy telling their non-state arms, Arewa Conservative Forum, go and attack them, go and attack them. They use go. They are only, beating around the bush. Because they know that if the nuisance that are coming out from the non-state actors should come from state actors, then they are going to have a very severe diplomatic counterattack from the supranational body UN, which they are a signatory to. And trust me, it's not going to be good. But let me say this before I come to the end of this program. As it stands now, IPOB is at the center of every social discourses in the Nigerian state. Not two ways about it. In fact, what every presidential candidate says in support or against IPOB is a very strong determinant factor that is going to shape his or her own political prospects. And I want to say this as a matter of necessity, because so many of us don't understand what strategy is all about, what policy initiation is all about. It is for our own healthy interest that the leadership is focused with what we are doing. Like some empty heads among us will say, why has leadership not taken position on the list? Who born you? Do you think issue of freedom is issue of after taking ogogoro, then you add it with snuff, whatever. Probably you add it with osoj, then put some more nkwelu overnight. There's this one we call overnight, mayang overnight, as in palm wine that has fermented. Maybe you take the one that will stay for 4 days overnight. You know, that one is more intoxicating than whatever you can manage. Then you wake up. Maybe you are living in US, you own your wife. The next thing you go out to your small page. Leadership has compromised for not making the opposition election team now. You that said that, you know nothing absolutely about politics, diplomacy, international politics. You know nothing outside. Then when somebody asks you, why did you say that? The next thing most of us will now follow will say, the Lord said. Tell us not the Lord. Tell us it is the voice of Ngwelu, overnight one, 4 days, from heavily fermented, with those surgery, then mixed with water. That is the influence at which you said that. We will understand. We will have no issue with you. But when you come and speak trash and expect people to just buy into that irrational thinking, trust me, it definitely going nowhere. So we'll come to the end of this program at this moment. We'll be coming as much as we can now that they have released us. And I wish Facebook should have mercy, especially on me. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends the part of the world you are joining us from. I am Mazi Chika Austin, and we're here once again to also look at issues as they develop, because we're in a very changing world. We're in a changing world where the world is in a very fast move, and it takes those with the ability to study in a quick path to understand where our dear world is heading to. Unfortunately, I have been unable to post for a couple of days now, owing to the fact that my accounts are under restriction. My accounts are under restrictions, and the only thing we can do now currently is to make a live video against posting. So Facebook have not really been kind to some of us. So I cannot post, I cannot comment, I cannot react. I can only do just live video, and that is why I have to make use of the only available option of communication on this platform. But nevertheless, on Twitter, we have been also been active on Twitter, doing everything we can do to get the messages passed across. No mistake about that. We've been trying our best on Twitter platform to disseminate this gospel. So I believe you're getting us loud and clear. I believe from your own point, we are coming out audibly as much as we can. And I trust you will also give me a response to that, making use of the comment section to let us know how loud and clear we are coming out from. Then we have to also proceed, because it is in our dictionary to proceed. Proceeding is part of our agenda, and we make no mistake, and we owe no mortal any apology in, getting these messages across to nook and crannies of the world. Actually, a lot of things are happening while I'm waiting for a response as regards to if we are coming out loud and clear. You also need to help in making use of your sharing button to make sure this program is shared. Because all we are going to talk about this evening is how the world is changing, talking about change in terms of political space, changing in terms of relationship, talking about international relationship, change on multifaceted, thank you, Rilaba, multifaceted approaches, how things are really turning around. Like most of us don't know, there are some of us who are of the school of thought that when issues are on a rowdy ground or rowdy note, that is when things are happening. It's hard time we understand that most times the world evolves in a noiseless manner. Make no mistake about that. The world revolves in a very noiseless manner. But most of us who believe that it's only when there is hysteria, it's only when there is an outburst, it's only when there is noise that is when things are happening. We must develop our minds, we must develop our thoughts to understand that you can effect a change on environment of quietness. You can, effect a change without making an oral communication. And that is exactly what is actually happening in our world. And I believe for those of us who are here, at the end of this program, we're going to get exposed and get mentally in touch to the realities of the now. Things that are happening, and we must understand that. So, at the level of international politics, in fact, as a matter of fact, it's important I point our minds to the fact that there is no local politics without international politics. These are is structured. That is how the system is structured. You cannot run effective international engagement without having a domestic fortification. Inversely, you cannot also have an effective domestic prevalence without also having the understanding of international engagement. And that is one unique thing about Ipob. Not because I am a member of Ipob, but owing to the fact that Ipob have organically evolved and integrated from dual personality of having a domestic base and international base. And that's why it's so difficult to, you see, it's easy for anybody to say, I will crush you. But getting the result of that language has been so difficult to achieve. Because if IPOB did not, dualize her personality vis-a-vis domestic personality and foreign personality, believe me, it could have been a severe challenge for her to get where she is today. One of the problems most other people have, which is inimical to their advancement, is because they refuse to understand the reality of this. So the world as it is today, as it is in 21st century, is so interconnected that both local front and foreign front are too entangled for you to separate. So we are having a system of the world, we are having we are ushering a new international system. But it's so funny that most people don't understand that the world is transcending from a particular power permutation to a new power permutation. You see, it's happening in a geometric form. It's happening in a form that just the way the earth evolves, so to say. And we are on the earth that is rotating without feeling the impact of that rotation. And that's exactly how international political permutation is currently happening. So it is our responsibility, those of us who derive joy, those of us who have spent years and the passion in investigating international developments, it is our responsibility to bring this evolution, to bring this, movement into your understanding and into your limelight. Very, very important. We owe you that responsibility to do that, and you owe us that responsibility to assimilate as much as you can while we unveil and usher in various transitionary stages of global powers and what have you. So we are currently facing a change of power. Some persons will say that change of power have not fully taken place. They might be right in their own analysis. Some persons will say it has fully taken place. They also might be right in their own analysis. But I will not fall in to any school of thought, whether the concluding school of thought or the evolving school of thought. I'm not going to fall in any of the divide. But what is paramount here is that I'm going to concentrate in pointing out several facts, several references, pointing out several realities on your table. Then you can now judge if actually the power shift have finally consolidated. Has it been formalized or is still undergoing the process of formalization? You have that judgment to make. You own the absolute responsibility to make that judgment. So recently, for the past over 100 days now, we noticed a war broke out in Eastern Europe, and hastily some persons said the war was going to lead to the demise of Russia. Some persons also predicted that the war was going to, because the war led to, a vicious circle sanctions on Russian state or Russian Federation. And some persons came to the hasty conclusion. It's hasty because most of the early predictions when the war broke out were that Putin was not going to survive 100 days or sustain the war beyond 30 days, because you could see heavy sanctions coming from the Western nation. Although people call it sanction, I call it early hypocrisy, because no single sanction they made on Russian energy is still sustainable. So I see it as an early hypocrisy, early double standard the Western nation played. But what we are now seeing is a new world system. The war that broke out, or the war that is ongoing between Russia and Ukraine, have opened a lot of, in fact, it had demystified a lot of powers we respected, we feared before the war time. And believe you me, one of those powers that are battling, struggling currently to see how to survive, to see how to hold her footprint. One of the powers, or some of the powers currently, is United States. United States is currently battling on how to, whether she will fall back to pre-war status. You know, in the pre-war, I'm talking about before the war broke out between Russia and Ukraine, United States was on, I won't say overrated, but she was so reverend, she was so feared, she was so, okay, thank you, I think my brother is also here, watching JP, Pasmaga Ozeko. Thank you, he's a colleague, he's a wonderful colleague who does a lot of research, joint research with me, and I'm happy to have you here, Mazi Chika. So thank you for coming. So what we are talking this evening is going to be an eye-opening for you to understand the dimension of the global wind. Because if you don't understand it, you will never appreciate when we say to you that Nigerians' aid is inevitable. You will think we are talking what we don't know. But we deem it fit to get this information across. Like I usually say, by the special grace of the Most High, we will definitely get a complete equipment, so we do a lot of projections. We have a lot of pictorial and video evidences to back up our submissions. But unfortunately, deficiency in equipment, rob us this opportunity. And also by extension, also robs you. Because it could have been more convincing if we are projecting videos and pictures and other related articles, or documents, so to say. So, before the war broke out, United States was highly reverent, seen as a hegemon or a superpower. But as I speak to you, but as I speak to you currently, US is battling to get her image restored as it was before the war broke out between Russia and the Ukraine. Because US is so in a very strong mess as far as reputation, as far as status is concerned, as far as international respect she previously had is concerned. The incident between Russia and the Ukraine depleted that respect, destroyed that reputation, deflected in a strong and a deep state the respect that US was, attached to. And the second power that is also in a severe battle as I speak to you is UK, United Kingdom. United Kingdom is in a very severe mess. And it's important, I'm going to also tell you how every single power shared her own mess. UK is also in a very severe mess owing to the fact that the war broke out between Ukraine and Russia. And I'm going to tell you how every power is affected. Another power that is also in a dilemma is the regional bloc known as European Union. And the European Union is also battling her own fate, causing of Russian-Ukraine war. Now, let's go back to United States. How United States ran into mess that is eating her up. As I speak to you, US is doing a lot of secret moves that I'm going to tell you, and it's really shocking. It's really shocking for you to know that these things are happening. You cannot see it on CNN, you cannot see it in mainstream media, you cannot see it in so-called passive platforms of narratives. But trust me, because we go beyond the passive surfaces, we go beyond the elementary stratas to unearth a lot of information. And that's why sometimes people will say to us, isn't this fake news? How did you get it? And we laugh over it because you don't need a passive mind to get a deep information. You must understand that. Passivity in search of deep information is an illusion. So if you want to go deep, you must declothe yourself the mentality of, being on your comfort zone and get served with filtered, high censored and filtered information. So to United States, most of you never knew what happened in Ukraine. Prior to this time, Ukraine has been a very important channel. Remember, you have to share this program because many people need to join. So before the war broke out, Ukraine has been a very sensitive ground for politicians in the United States. And of course, the elements of New World Order. Ukraine has been a place where those corrupt politicians in the United States do their money laundering. Through Ukraine, a lot of monies were loaned out from the United States and others. Ukraine also been a place there were a lot of biolabs. Some of us might not understand what biolabs are. Biolabs are these laboratories, scientifically established laboratories for biological weapons. Yes, because there are various, I think, 3 types of nuclear weapons. There are 3 types of nuclear weapons. We have atomic bomb, we have a biological weapon, and which other one? So in Ukraine, there is a well-established laboratories where United States and her Western allies run a lot of laboratory viruses, and these viruses are established as a weapon of war. Most of you don't know that so many sicknesses you hear on this planet Earth were artificially manufactured in labs as a weapon of control, as a weapon of attack, as offensive weapons. And such things were also existing in Ukraine. A lot of secret viruses were, manufactured, produced by secret services in US and in Europe. So what the war did in Ukraine was to destroy these centers in Ukraine. Russia, because Russian intelligence knew that these things were existing at their neighborhood. The Ukrainian, the government of Russia, is aware that these labs were all existing in their neighborhood. But because the concept of sovereignty, there is no how Russia could enter in Ukraine to dislodge or destroy these laboratories. Russia cannot just do that. So to Russia, the provocation the West did using Ukraine against her was a good opportunity for them to destroy those labs. And guess what? A lot of these labs were destroyed. So many of them were destroyed. And of course, a lot of finances smuggled as laundered money from United States. Yes, I think somebody has helped me. There are 3 types of weapons of mass destruction. You have atomic bomb, the one that was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Remember that story, Second World War. You have biological weapon. This is where you manufacture viruses using it to attack an enemy state. And you have the chemical weapons. Chemical weapon is like where you have gas. There are very toxic gas. You know, you can drop within an environment and the people will be in problem. It's called chemical weapons. So in Ukraine, there was labs established for biological weapons. So to Russia, these were opportunities to destroy these centers of evils in their neighbors. And also, it was also an opportunity for Russia also to take control of those channels of money laundering. Most Western politicians were using Ukraine to launch. Most of you never knew that even Hunter Biden, the first son of current Joe Biden, was even awarded an energy contract in Ukraine when Hunter Biden never had any study on energy. He never had any knowledge on energy. But because the corrupt Ukrainian government wanted to use him to have access to his father, when his father was the Vice President Obama, they gave him a heavy contract in Ukraine. So Ukraine has been a channel of dating deals, even in the Biden's family and not the rest of them. So to Russia, it was a clear opportunity to dislodge those activities. But look at what happened. Immediately the war broke out. Because I'm telling you how every single country is suffering the consequences of their miscalculation in Eastern Europe. Immediately the war broke out. There was heavy mobilization by United States and the UK. In fact, as a matter of fact, one thing I want you to understand whenever you're discussing Russian-Ukrainian crisis, see it from the lens of UK-induced crisis. It was UK at the background, using America to instigate that war. And somebody might ask, what was the benefit of UK in the whole gallery? UK had a very way of controlling competition. She doesn't want anybody to compete with her. In fact, the war you're seeing in Russia, Ukraine is not a war between Russia and Ukraine. It's a war between Russia and UK. Unfortunately, Zelensky becomes a proxy or becomes a proxy of the United Kingdom at the detriment of his own people. Most of you don't understand. And you might ask, why should the UK be much interested? It's simple. UK hates competition. UK hates where she plays a backseat services. Most of you don't understand why UK left European Union. Not because she wants freedom. UK entered the European Union, I think, in 1979. And her intention was, as she was entering European Union, she was going to control, influence, assert a heavy opportunity among the bloc members. But unfortunately to her, when she entered the European Union from 1979 till when she left, she was finding it difficult to outsmart Germany and France, because Germany and France and Luxembourg, Belarus, Luxembourg, Germany and France were the pioneers of that vision. They were the ones who established the European Union before others came. It is Belarus, Luxembourg, Germany and France. And of course, it started from a sectorialism or one sector development, which is energy and
Yes, from energy sector. So when UK discovered that she could not outsmart Germany and France in the European Union, she left. She decided to leave because she does not want to belong anywhere she cannot control. That is UK for you. That is United Kingdom for you. The accolade, great, is still strong in her heart. She still wants to be regarded as a Great Britain. That accolade, great, runs high in her head. That is UK for you. So when she could not survive influencing decision in EU, she left. She literally left European Union, not because of freedom. Most of you don't understand. She left because she was not having a high influence in the policy of European Union. She left. Now, when she left, she discovered that if you come to Europe, it's all about European Union and Russia. But because she had left, she now believed that she had two powers to contend in Europe. One is European Union, another is Russia. So for UK, the best way to weaken European Union is for her to instigate member states to activate the article of disassociation. So UK government, immediately she left, she activated a war against the European Union. And how she activated that war was to secretly ask other member states of European Union to consider to leave. She began to instigate, let others also have referendum on how to leave European Union. In fact, it was a very big project UK carried because UK does not want any other power in Europe to challenge her. So for her, if she weakens European Union, she will be the strong power in Europe. But to her also, that in Eastern Europe is a growing Russia, heavily growing Russia, that needs to be weakened. So do you know what she did? She has been moving Americans to keep on provoking Russia through the platform of NATO. Because she wants Russia to be weakened so that the way European Union will be going down, the same time Russia will be going down, and she will become the only outstanding power in Europe. But unfortunately, she miscalculated. All her gains against Russia became a flaw. America was lured into that. And European Union was also mobilized. But little do they understand that while they were making preparation, the Kremlin, that is the Russian Federation, have taken a whole lot of years understanding all this movement and also making a preparation for them. In fact, at the time, ahead of what is happening today, Russia solved her dependency relations. Russia pulled out 5 years, 6 years, those areas she knew that if war broke out, she would find it difficult to survive as a result of sanctions. She gradually bolted out from those things. Those things countries were doing for her, that she knew that if she raised sanction on that, she would suffer. She began to prepare it for herself 10 years ago, ahead of what is to come. And guess what? When the war broke out, every single power or belligerent power, talking about US, UK, and European Union, are severely suffering the consequences of their miscalculation. and of course under evaluation or underestimation of Russian Federation. To US, as I speak to you, US is in a very big mess. I believe some of you are watching me from the United States, and trust me, you're buying your gasoline above $5 a liter. There is energy crisis in US, inflation is high, and of course, US foreign policy power is in a severe reduction. The respect US, the influence and command US used to have, the respect she used to command among Committee of Nations is in a severe depletion, causing of their miscalculation in the ongoing crisis. Now, let me tell you things that are happening that CNN is not going to tell you, BBC is not going to tell you. Mainstream Western media are not going to tell you. Are not going to tell you. US is in a severe bleeding. Most of you don't understand. As I speak to you, as this program is going on, Joe Biden is to visit Gulf states, Saudi Arabia and UAE. Why? Look at what is happening. They sanction Russia, and they say they are not going to buy Russian oil. And make no mistake, Russia is the highest oil producing country on the surface of earth, followed by Saudi Arabia. They sanction Russia, and their plan was, if they say they are not going to buy Russian oil, that they are going to compel Saudi Arabia, UAE, and all the rest of them. I won't mention Nigeria because Nigeria oil is nowhere among the standard of international consumption. Most of you don't understand. Nigeria oil is underdeveloped among Committee of Nations. Because I know somebody out there will be saying, but Nigeria has oil. We're talking about developed sectors of energy. That is what we are talking here. We are not talking about country that does not even know the quality of what she's producing. So, it was the intention of the United States of mobilizing sanction, of course, international sanction against Russian state. Then they will now compel Saudi Arabia, UAE, and other oil-producing states to replace those number of quantities that Russia could not supply on energy market. But one thing United States failed to understand is that Joe Biden's government, in fact, one of the statements Joe Biden made during his campaign was this, that he was going to make Saudi Arabia to be a para state. The word para means an outcast. That was the language the current government of President of the United States made on his campaign. He promised to the American people that for the fact that MBS, Saudi Arabia's crown king, was fingered in killing of the journalist in Turkey. You remember those stories? Or have you forgotten so soon? The Saudi Arabian journalist that was killed in Turkey, and his body disembarked. Joe Biden, during his campaign, said that Donald Trump was not heavy on Saudi Arabia. He did not punish Saudi Arabia and his crown king enough. That if he is to be elected, because that was during campaign, that he was going to make sure that Saudi Arabia is placed as an outcast country. And guess what? He won. And that statement he made led Saudi Arabia to ignore America's plea, because America's intention was that if they place heavy sanctions on Russia, then they will ask Saudi Arabia to pump enough energy, enough oil in the market. But when America approached Saudi Arabia and UAE, they told America point blank. In fact, in several locations, they did not pick the call of Joe Biden. That is the first signal they gave to him. They did not pick his call. And he is currently preparing to go to Saudi Arabia to beg them, to go to UAE to beg them. Because his intention was he's going to put sanction on Russian energy and run to Saudi Arabia and say, please pump more oil so that there won't be limited oil in OPEC markets, thereby making the price to be high. That was what they planned. But after that, after they sanctioned Russia, Saudi refused to pump additional from what they used to pump. UAE refused. And why did they refuse? They refused because they know that the current American government is not in a good relationship with them. That is one. Two, they understand that high cost of petroleum or high cost of energy is going to give them high revenue, because the energy is high, because much are not in the market for the West to buy. The price, because the price is high, Saudi Arabia is going to earn high revenue. And guess what? As I speak to you, Americans are suffering. Inflation is high. Americans are buying, high petroleum from cents. In fact, during the time of Trump, they were buying about less than $1 per liter. But now they are buying over $5 per liter. That is what Americans are paying. And Joe Biden and the Democrats have realized that by November they are going to have what we call midterm election. And the Americans are going to punish Democrats severely by making sure that those Democrats going to the Congress will be will be voted out of seats. So what they are now doing now is, how do we bring down the energy cost so that American electors will not vote the Democrats out of seats come November election, midterm election. So Joe Biden, who vowed to Americans that he was going to deal with Saudi Arabia, is to run to Saudi Arabia by July to beg Saudi Arabia. Remember, the British people are also suffering their own. Do you understand? British people on their own are also suffering. Inflation is also beating UK. In fact, as I speak to you, for the past 40 years, the inflation UK is experiencing now, they have never seen it for the past 40 years. Now, this is what America is facing. Do you know the shocking thing? I want to tell you the most shocking thing you should understand. Why America and UK are afraid to suspend their sanctions against Russia, because they are feeling that it's a kind of going back to their vomit. Why American government and UK government, out of pride and ego, they are on suicide, self-destruction, secretly dying in pain, because they can't suspend the sanctions on Russia. Why their arrogancies are guiding them. The European Union voted that from the sanction. The Germans, the French people, Italy, and all the rest of them went to Russia and said to Russia, we are no longer interested in sanctioning you. Supply energies for us. And you can see the European Union economy is regaining back her strength because Russia has started supplying them energy. And UK, that is dying in silence or out of pride, is now facing the worst experience she has ever anticipated. The same thing is happening to America. Now, let me not tell you what is happening, because I said I'm going to tell you a shocking thing. Both America and UK currently are now funding the war in Ukraine. They are putting billions of dollars in the pocket of Russia. But they are doing that behind the camera. How are they doing it? Because America understands that they, at all costs, they need Russian energy to flow. UK also wants Russian energy to grow. India and China are the ones on the benefit. But what happened? India said they are not going to be part of the sanction. And Russia said, for you to have done this, I'm going to give you less price. Not what energy is costing in energy market. I'm going to sell you at a cheaper price. China, I'm going to sell to you at a cheaper price. And guess what? India now saw that as an opportunity to buy a lot of Russian oil because it's cheap. Russia is selling to India lesser to what the price is. The same thing is happening to China. India now saw it as a market opportunity. Do you know what India is doing? India will now go to US that is in a hunger for this energy. Go to UK and say to them, pay me so amount and I will give you, sell oil to you. And which oil is India selling to? So India buys a lot. So India buys a lot from Russia. India liquidates Russian energy reserve. And Americans are lining at the doorstep of India, begging for India to sell to them. Indirectly giving India money to hand over to Russia, making Russia more strong, because Russia is now having more money to even pound Ukraine heavier while America watches. The same America and UK that say, we will not buy, are now throwing dollars, billions of dollars to India. And India is now happy because she's now doing retailing. She buys at wholesale price from Russia and sell at retail price to foolish UK and the foolish United States. Isn't that funny? It's so and Joe Biden, it's so funny. And the same people who are doing this come on CNN and say, where is India buying Russian energy? And they go back behind, after speaking on camera, they go behind and say, India, you know what we just said is to be politically correct. Please don't stop selling to us. And that is what is happening. And while Russian economy is growing, her currency rebounding. In fact, Russian ruble is rated to be the best. And for those of you who don't understand, from the time of the outbreak of that war till now, Russia has made over 20 billion US dollars in revenue. This is a country that is in the war. This is supposedly a country that is under sanction. Is now making higher revenue than what she used to make before the war. Isn't that miraculous? Isn't that miraculous? Now look at what is now happening. Russia has been heavily enriched as a result of the foolishness of the West. Russia, as I speak to you now, is now deadly rich, because these countries have foolishly and out of miscalculation put a lot of their monies out of desperation in the hand of Kremlin, in the hand of Russia. Do you know what is happening? They are now looking for a way, because they have realized that they are the ones funding the war against Ukraine indirectly without knowing. Because the energy they are buying in India is handling the same money back to. It's just like in India, the way we was here. India goes to Russian shop, takes product at a very cheaper price, run to the market, and at the door, he just seen UK and US begging him to sell. And he said on expensive. So to India is praying that the war should continue. And the Western countries are now realizing the danger of allowing the war to continue. Do you know what? They are now telling Ukraine to allow Eastern Europe to hand over Eastern Europe to Russia. Because they know that the more the war is continuing, the more the Western economies are collapsing. And the more they will be in a desperation to be handing over their reserve to Russia. And the more Russia will be so rich to even fight them in their own soil. And it's becoming a terror. It's becoming a headache for Wall Street to manage, for number 10 Downing Street to know how to come out of it, and what have you. And this is what US is suffering. Now, let me now tell you what is happening. Russia has now decided to create a new foreign policy. Most of you don't understand. At the end of the defunct USSR, which collapsed in 1990 or 1991, immediately USSR collapsed. The current Russian Federation maintained a foreign policy of not getting involved outside Eastern Europe. That was the foreign policy they maintained for themselves. They were not interested to come to Africa. They were not interested to go to any other place. They were just interested to see how to control their own environment, Eastern Europe. And they said to the NATO member states, please don't take crisis to us in our neighbors. They signed the agreement, though NATO violated. NATO attempted to take the war to them. They tried it in Georgia. Remember the Ossetia and Georgia war. They tried it in Poland. Remember during Bush, the anti-missile shield in Black Sea. During Bush tenure, they installed it in Poland. They also tried in Ukraine. The war is evidential. So Russia, Putin has changed that foreign policy. And Russia has decided to go into places the Western nations have upper hand and contend it with them. Do you know what Putin said? Putin said 2 or 3 days ago that there are only 2 kinds of countries in the world: the colonies and the sovereign. So to Putin, there are still colonialism. You know, the idea of colonialism ended in 1960s when United Nations ran a policy of decolonization. The United Nations policy of decolonization was to end colonialism. So to the Western nations, colonialism has ended. Nobody is under colonization. Though there are imperialism. There is imperialism, which is indirect form of colonialism. So Putin is now telling the Western nations that even those people you said you have decolonized, you have given independence, we still see them as not being independent. We still believe that people are still agitating. Even within those entities you say you have given independence, we are recognizing the fact that people still want to be free. And this is a serious thing. Do you know what Russia is doing currently? For those of us who care to know. In Southern America, Russia has taken a very severe battle to America, in Americans' backyard. Russia is heavily moving a lot of arsenals, moving a lot of influences in Southern America. Of course, Southern America is at the backyard of the United States and is giving United States headache. In fact, as a matter of fact, United States have decided to revisit what we call consular cases. There are what we call consular cases. I think it was cases of 1901. In 1901, some places like Puerto Rico and the Guam. For those of you who are watching from the United States, you know Puerto Rico is an American colony. Guam is also an American colony. But do you know what is happening? Because of what Russia has decided to do, Russia is now trying to move on those people, move to the help of those people who desired to get rid of American pressure on them, to get rid of United Kingdom pressure on them. So to America, America is trying to hasten everything fast before the arrival of Russia. So there is what we call insular cases in America. Insular cases is the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court interpretation in 1901, which gives America power to be in charge, to be in ownership of Puerto Rico and Guam. But as I speak to you, United States Supreme Court is now revisiting that insular cases, thereby trying to see a way, if possible, to grant these people their independence, Puerto Rico and Guam. Because Russia is now trying to, campaign, champion the cause of total decolonization, including places America are. And that's what, guess what? American Supreme Court is now revigorating, rejuvenating, reawakening their Supreme Court position in 1901, which made Puerto Rico and Guam an American colonies. So America is trying to run away from her own subjugation against the people of Puerto Rico and Guam, courtesy of current Russian foreign policy, which is going to wherever people are subjugated and champion for liberation. In fact, as a matter of fact, the war going on between Russia and Ukraine is a war of liberation. Russia wants to liberate the people of eastern Ukraine who are being maltreated badly by the Ukrainian government. So apart from that too, there is a place, as I speak to you, there is a place known as Marshall Island. You can Google it. Google it. It's within the Pacific. In this Marshall Island, Marshall Island is made up of 50,000 people. This is an island in the Pacific. It's also under American control. And these people have been crying over. Do you know what American government does in Marshall Island? They test all kinds of atomic weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons in Marshall Island. That's what America does in Marshall Island. This is where you have about 50,000 people inhabiting. But America see it as a testing ground. They test all kinds of nuclear weapons there. In fact, if you make a research, a lot of people in Marshall, the indigenous people of Marshall Island, majority of them are exposed to radiations. Yes, they are suffering of radioactive penetration in their system. And America never cared. United States never given for. But as I speak to you, because of what is happening now, because of Russia's policy of contending with these powers overseas, America is not struggling. As I speak to you, They are now asking for a fresh agreement with the people of Marshall Island because they understand that these people can welcome Russia and Russia will help them to repel America. So US is not trying to mend her ways. The people of Marshall Island were guinea pigs, if I should use a very mild language. They were used as a test run. So that is how America is trying to prepare her future. Because America and UK ignorantly and indirectly have funded Russia and made Russia to be as richer than what she used to be before the war broke out. And in the case of UK, Russia is officially entering Africa to contend with UK. And of course, you should understand that Africa is a battleground because of a lot of interest parties. Russia is entering in a very aggressive way. China is here already. France is here, UK is here, America is here in Africa, and some other powers as well. But do you know what is happening? It will interest you to know. Russia wants to hit those places UK leverage on. And there is no part of Africa that UK has upper economic cliff on than Nigeria. And most of you don't understand. Russia a few weeks ago told the world that America is running a lot of laboratory biological labs in Nigeria, and they mentioned Kaduna, they mentioned Abuja, they mentioned Lagos. But most of us who are not schooled in the language and titles of diplomacy thought it's just a mere news. It's never a mere news. What Russia did through the publication of that information is that their eyes are seriously heavy in Nigeria. Is it against America? No. Who? Against British interest. And that is how the future looks like. Nigeria is going to be a very heavy ground of contention. And I keep saying to people, sometimes those of you who are really conservative followers of mine, I mean to say, I always talk about Korean Peninsula. So many of us don't understand the technicality of the undertone of that concept I was pushing out. When we talk about Korean Peninsula, I always say that Biafra can never, or Biafra will not come. Or I didn't say Biafra will not come until, rather what I was trying to say, what we speed up the restoration of Biafra is when we are able to give Nigerian space a Korean Peninsula space. I'm going to explain to you. North Korea and South Korea were once one singular country before 1950s. But do you know what happened? Ideological divide separated the two. America supported the South Korea, America and her Western allies, and the Russia, China supported the North Korea in a war. The two superpowers were fighting a proxy war, and at the time they got tormented. When I mean tormented, they got to a point that the two powers are tired. Nothing can happen. Nobody is pushing forward, nobody is pushing backward. They were stalled. There was a storm, they were tormented. And guess what? At that point, there was an armistice. They signed an armistice. And the Korean Peninsula was divided into two. North Korea and South Korea. And life went on till today. The two countries are separate independent states, doing their own things in their different way. And that is exactly the future of Nigeria. We are getting to a point that Russia is highly interested. The West are also interested. China and Russia is going to definitely have a common ground in terms of interest. Make no mistake about that. They will definitely align themselves on their own interest. UK and America will also have their own interest to project. But there is a mistake some of us do make. And I always say it is a mistake. It's a mistake because some of us are very, very emotional about international development. International developments are not issues of emotion. It's not issues of you post on social media, and why can't leadership align with Russia? It doesn't work the way you think. Issues of international relations, issues of diplomacy are highly issues of secrecy. In fact, I will see it as a fraud, as childish, and as a height of stupidity. If leadership of this struggle will tell us that they have written to Russian Federation, if they come on air and make such statement, to me it amounts to foolishness. Why do I say it? I say that because in international politics, you don't go extreme left, neither do you go extreme right. You do what we call balancing or equilibrium. You don't go extreme left, you don't go extreme right. And also you do what we call understudying. You must understudy every single development. And no man who studies talks. No. When you're studying, there's always quietness, peace, placidity, absolute placidity. People might be worried, is this man around? But only you know that you are around. But understanding development, that is exactly how it ought to be. That is exactly how it ought to be. So, in this case, what we need is to study the development, do the engagements we are doing, but everything must be done behind cameras. If it's done before camera, it's now a childish display. Although there is a time it becomes a camera thing. But at the time of you reaching out, it's always a behind camera affairs. It's not public thing. It's only kids that want it to be a public discourses. Because they lack the elementary understanding of how international engagements are done. So, presently we are getting to that point. Because believe me, right, Russia will make the whole mess of British interest in Nigeria. Already you see what they did. Most of you never knew why France is seriously betraying the West and somehow supporting Russia. But most of you never knew that Macron calls Putin more than calls Putin as if he's calling his girlfriend. Some of you never knew about that. Emmanuel Macron of France have been in a constant communication with Putin. In fact, the West are accusing him of leaking their secrets, that he always leaks their secret to Putin. Why is Emmanuel Macron making a U-turn? Or why did he make a U-turn? He made a U-turn because he understood that French interest in Africa is in jeopardy. What Russia did to France in Mali can never be forgotten in the history of French people. Russia bullied French soldiers out of Mali, not with their own conventional military. They did it with their own, security company. Permit me to use that word. French soldiers in Mali, I'm not telling you historical event, I'm telling you event of about less than 5 months. Russian security company, just the way you have a Blackwater, American security company that operated in Iraq. You remember Blackwater Gate? or Blackwater Gate. You remember that scandal? Russia has a security network that is operational in Mali. And that security company backed up the Malian junta, even when French government planned a coup or counter coup, planned assassination against the man. Russian security company protected the Malian junta and helped them to drove away French soldiers in Mali. Now look at what happened. After that operation was successfully carried away in Mali, a lot of French countries or the Francophonians began to see the need to run to Russia for help. And you know what the help Russia always give them? Russia always teach them how to drive away French people in their soil and protect them. So to Emmanuel Macron understand that with what Putin did in Mali and Central African Republic, most of you don't understand what happened in Central African Republic. The Fulanis you see running down to Nigeria were drove away by Russian mercenaries in Central African Republic. A group was set up known as Anti-Balakan Group because the Fulanis in Central African Republic were killing indigenous people. And these people, the Christians rose, formed a militia group known as an Anti-Balakan with the help of Russia. Dealt with them, a lot of them ran to Sudan, a lot of them ran to other parts of neighboring African countries to Central African Republic, and some of them you're seeing are the ones coming to Nigeria that their brother wanted to settle through the Ruga project. Russia helped the people in Central African Republic and dealt with these people mercilessly. So you cannot understand what Russia is doing in Africa that most of you never knew. So Emmanuel Macron now understood that with what Russia motivated an African leader to be in Mali, that Togo will one day run to Russia for help, Benin Republic will do that, Ivory Coast will do that, and not the rest of them. So to Emmanuel Macron, the best thing to do is to see how to work in understanding, in synergy with Putin, so that France does not lose the remaining African countries loyal to them. Because what happened in Mali became a litmus test of how powerful Russia can be, how reliable Russia can be. But make no mistake, it's not only in Mali that Russia began to show her power. Not only in Syria, Russia defeated American interest in Syria, because American interest under Obama was to remove Assad, not al-Bashir. Al-Bashir is that of Sudan. American and Western interest was to remove Assad of Syria. But Russia stood in Syria, defended Assad. In fact, Russia have her fifth naval fleet stationed in Syria, defended Assad and made sure the West never removed Assad. And he also repeated it in Mali. So now, the question you should ask yourself, or best for an answer, is this. If Russia could deal with France, that is not an arch enemy to her in Mali, do you think Russia will surrender or think twice in dealing with British interest in Nigeria? You know what the answer should be. If France that is not on the extreme quarrel with Russia could be booted out of Mali forcefully against French government interest. Are you not telling me Russia will pity in sweeping out British interest in Nigeria? Now you not understand what I'm saying. But if you also look at internal structures and dynamic in Nigeria, I have really spent a quite number of time, over an hour, and we don't need to also bore you down so that you don't get involved. Much analysis leads to paralysis, so that we don't bore you down. So let me see how to cut short so that we come to an end. Then next time we also continue. So if you also look at the structures in Nigeria, the composition of Nigeria, one thing will tell you that Nigeria is naturally going to ignite the process of making herself or creating a scene of Korean Peninsula. In fact, she is working speedily in igniting that scenario. I'm telling you, I might not go deep to some things until a certain time, but I want you to understand that Nigeria is speedily working towards creating Korean Peninsula scene in her soil. A lot of somebody said to me, somebody wanted to seek my opinion in P2B's presidential vying. And I said to the person, I said, I don't think we will be wise if we spend our time in his interest and pursuit. The reason being that P2B belong to a particular school of thought. And who are this school of thought? The school of thought that believe that good leadership can lead to good Nigeria. I have no issue with that, because everyone's ideology is sacrosanct to him, in as much as you don't want to infringe upon my own line of thinking. I have no problem with you. But I said to the person, if IPOB carries out a media campaign which will have the media strength to demean P2B presidential pursuit, what we have successfully done is to destroy a scenario that is evolving to our own advantage. To our own advantage in the sense that those who fear the Igbo Mazi emergence of president of Nigeria to stop P2B, they will do everything at their own power to prove to the likes of P2B and his numerous supporters that Nigeria, like an animal farm, written by George Orwell, that some people are more equal than others. So if IPOB goes into stopping that future remark, which is going to be advantageous to us, that means we are not smart. What we need is the principle of Jesus. There's a principle he uses. When they ask him, is it not better, the disciples asked him, is it not better for us to cut the wrong thing? He said, no. It's better let the good and the bad to grow together. Because there are people who are not mentally tough like us that we say we want total separation. They are falling on the line of P2P school of thought, which is what we need is good leadership to create an equal and egalitarian society. This is his own philosophy, this is his own idea. It's really superb. I have no issue with that. But the truth is that the primordial forces, those forces that believe in their own crude and shrewd mentality, that there are animals that are more equal than others, will do everything possible at their own reach to frustrate and rig out the system against P2B. In so doing, the likes of P2B and his followers will now run to us and understand that all we have been saying is just true. Let me tell us something. You see, we must be wise. We must be tactical and we must be strategic. There are things you are allowed to flow on its own. You see, you are allowed it to flow. But what you should be at the background is to have what we call control position. You don't obstruct, but you control. There are things you don't obstruct. Obstructing destroys your agenda. But you allow a free flow of current, but at the background you have what you call control circle or circuit. Very, very important. Let me tell us so many of us. You see, if we had stopped Umahi to contest for the presidential seat, he wouldn't have known how stupid Ohaneze is. He wouldn't have also known how stupid his fellow Eastern politicians are. He wouldn't have also known that the system, the Nigerian system, is systemed in a way that there is no place for the Igbo man. If we had told him, and if we have mobilized our resources at stopping him to get to the point of mercy he got himself in Abuja, him and Rochas, if we had mobilized all our resources to say, no, don't go to Abuja, we will stop you, they will not. But they went, they saw, and they came back in shame. And they seem to be preaching what they call the message of division. They are not the one preaching that message. The message we preached and they proscribed us, they are the ones preaching it. So, this is my personal submission. I speak as a Chika Austin. What we need to do is not to stop P2B, is not to mobilize our media resources against him or this. We should allow him. He's doing excellently. He's marvelous. In fact, as a matter of fact, if Nigeria is a regional government, a regional structure, if Nigeria is a decentralized system where you have a regional system, believe you me, the good ones will never even allow Tinubu in his health status, in his mental disposition to even be a councillor. Neither would the ones allow Atiku and his antecedent. We remember the scandal of Transcorp and the selling of national assets. We're all here when all these things were happening. Even the Hariwaku will never give Atiku second chance. Among all of them, P2B is incomparably outstanding. But guess what? The primordial forces that are embedded in Igbophobic tendency will bring P2B to us. Because P2B will get to the point and they will push him back to his people. You see, there are things that when they are working, you just allow it to flow because it's definitely going to pass to you. It's definitely going to pass to you, bounce back to you. Let me tell us some of us never knew. Before 1949, the state of Israel was founded in 1949. Before 1949, or should I say before 1940, at the center of the Second World War. Prior to that time, there were a lot of Jews that were asked, that were told by their brothers. Because most of you should understand that the Holocaust that happened in Europe did not just, the Nazis did not just wake up and start killing the Jews. No, it was, an evolved hatred. We took a whole lot of years. If we reach Dreyfus affair, in fact, as a matter of fact, the hatred predates Second World War era. If you read the Merchant of Venice, you will understand the envious position of the Europeans against the Jews. If you study the Shakespearean, I think that's a drama, or is it a prose? It should be a drama, not a prose. The Merchant of Venice. You will understand at the Shakespearean era how the Jews were hated. It never stopped that time. Even when that thing was happening, some Jews were telling their fellow Jews, please, can't we consider